Welcome. Remember to share and subscribe. Do you have questions or comments? Please leave them below in the comments section or contact me. Now, let's get started on today's video. Do you believe Paul's letters are divinely inspired? The argument I have heard goes something like this. Because Paul says all scripture is God-breathed, Paul's letters are also divinely inspired because they are scripture. And why would they not be divinely inspired, considering they are a part of the Bible? This presents a challenge because Paul's letters give us conflicting instructions. Sometimes Paul even makes mistakes, such as when he assumes Jesus will return in his days. We can do what most Christians do. Ignore that Paul sometimes contradicts himself. But there is a second option. What if we assume Paul did not write divinely inspired letters? And if so, the natural question is, why are they part of our Bible? When Paul says, all scripture is God-breathed, we assume he is talking about the Old and New Testaments. However, scripture was only the first 5 books of Moses and the prophets for Paul. So we know from Paul's own words that his letters are, in his opinion, not scripture and not God-breathed. One good example is whether women should be allowed to preach. In one of his letters, he says one specific woman in a particular congregation is forbidden to teach. In another letter, he says women in another congregation are even allowed to be apostles. Because most Christians disagree with Paul on whether or not his letters are God-breathed, we overlook this contradictory statement. And we make doctrines that say women can't be priests. We must remember that when Paul wrote his letters, he addressed specific congregations with specific problems he wanted to help them with. If we don't consider this, we end up creating many human-made doctrines that the Bible itself doesn't support. And that is the very definition of legalism. Why then are Paul's letters in the Bible? Because we will often run into the same problems in our congregations as they did back then. And then we can learn from Paul's letters what to do and what not to do. And because Paul gives us some universal doctrines that apply to everyone, such as Romans 10:9-10. Suppose we are to understand his universal doctrines. In that case, we have to keep in mind that according to Paul, the Old Testament is God-breathed and useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. Do you understand what Paul is telling us here? He says that if we reject the Old Testament and see it as irrelevant today, we will be without teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. Then, we will not be able to fully understand what he means when he gives us universal doctrines that apply to everyone. Most Christian denominations do not teach, rebuke, correct, or train in righteousness because they see the Torah as irrelevant. Their members are not thoroughly equipped for every good work because they see the Torah as irrelevant today. These are not my words, these are Paul's words. When I was part of mainstream Christianity, I accepted the doctrine that Paul wrote inspired scriptures and that the Torah is not relevant to us today. I am so grateful I have changed since then, so I can be thoroughly equipped for every good work and trained in righteousness. Remember to share and subscribe. Do you have questions or comments? Please leave them below in the comments section or contact me. Until next time, God bless.